Good afternoon, everybody. Just like to thank everybody for joining us today. Hope everybody is having a good weekend so far. I know it's depending on where everybody's calling. Some it's middle of the day yet, some of it's the end of the day. Anyway, hope you're ready for a good hour of talking about art. As you all know, we've asked Michelle Austen from Calgary as our guest to discuss her artwork that we've got in display at our gallery. Before we start, I'd like to ask everyone to keep their audio and video off during the meeting, as we're going to have about a 20 to 30 minute question and answer at the end of the session. So please write down your questions and we can do that in the group chat after. So brief introduction, Michelle Austen is a full-time artist from Calgary. She's born in Toronto. Michelle has called Calgary home since 1979. Her focus is on creating art that reflects her inner self, an untiring passion to produce colorful and exciting expressions in oil, watercolor, and acrylic that play on our emotions. Michelle is a fervent plain art painter with a focus on Western Canadian landscape and floral subject matter. Winchester Gallery's current exhibition is Backgrounds and Beyond Artworks by Michelle. The exhibition features a collection of plein air paintings inspired by her travels on back roads through British Columbia and Alberta. I'd like to invite Michelle to start her talk about her art and the process of art making, mostly behind the scenes of our current exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you, Cal, and thank you to Winchester Galleries for hosting this exhibition, Backroads and Beyond. It's really an honor for me, especially since I traveled to collect and produce these paintings for this exhibition. And now it's pretty cool that the art has traveled out to the West Coast. And I thought today that I just want to tell you a little bit about what I thought we could do. And I just wanted to highlight a few of the paintings from my Backroads and Beyond exhibit and talk about them and share the process. And that will take about 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So at first, for those that aren't familiar with the term plein air painting, which is simply a French term, en plein air, of painting in the outdoors. And all 30 paintings in this exhibition have been a result of collecting information by painting in the outdoors, having that experience of being very present in the nature that is around me. And I think that as I paint more and more, that's becoming very important in my process. It really makes a difference in being able to feel how I was when I was there and interpret that into my artwork in the end. And I always think that that's the connection of a successful piece to me in my art. It really, being surrounded by nature really fuels my creativity. And all of these plein air painting trips were done in Alberta and BC. So I'm going to open up this screen to share with you the first painting that I'm going to talk about. This painting is called Season of Surrender. You guys see the painting? I think you can. Let's hope you can. I can't see any of you. So the painting Season of Surrender to me is one. Well, first of all, it's one of the first of 3 paintings I'm going to share from this amazing location that I had the honor of painting in all fall. From the gracious owner of a private ranch around Longview, Alberta. It's one of the oldest ranches in the area. And the first time I visited it with the owner, when he said I could paint up there, I knew that it was a pretty magical place. Just a little bit about the process of my painting. First thing I do when I start to think about a painting is ask myself, why am I painting it? And I actually write that down. And then I set an intention for the painting. And the intention can just be a word, like one word or a thought, and I actually do write it right on the canvas. It's in the painting. It's embedded in the paint, and usually, sometimes I'm allowing some words to come through in my painting lately, but most of the time it just gets enveloped in the paint and in the process. But the intention is really important to me because I believe that as the painting is being viewed, I think the people that resonate with that intention really resonate with the intention of the painting. So the next slide here is the actual view of where I was painting. And just to give you an idea, the morning I painted below here, and I had a destination in mind that I wanted to get to the top to paint the vistas, like always, trying to get somewhere. I had that plan of this day, but on this particular day, something stopped me on the way up this hill. I actually stopped my car and I got out, and it was just this magical experience of everything the leaves were floating around and the energy of the space. It brings me back to the moment right away. And as you can see in the photograph, you can't see any of that, although I spent a good amount of time standing out there, looking up, looking around, being awestruck by this moment in time, and took some photos. Didn't actually do a plein air sketch there, but it got embedded in my mind on some energetic level. And I really, just spent a good amount of time there. What I was going to say is that you can see in the painting, nothing that I saw out there that day, I can't even myself, I'm like, well, where are the leaves floating? And, so the photograph becomes quite a bit flat. And I think that's a really good contrast to actually working from photographic reference, which I do sometimes. But having that experience of actually being there really adds to that artwork. So anyhow, back to the story. I'm on my destination to the top of this spectacular view. And here I'm greeted by these amazing, beautiful creatures. And they are actually our movie horses. So they are pretty friendly. And we had, I pet them, spend some time with them, but usually I'm not greeted by these guys. Usually I get out of my car and I grab my camera, I grab my sketchbook, and I wander around and I decide what calls me in that moment to sit. Like, why am I going to sit here, and what view am I going to look at? And then I decide where I'm going to set up my easel. So for you, this is a couple examples of just my setup. I often don't have a chair. I often sit on a rock or whatever, but I usually stand as like the painting on the left. And sometimes I sit if I'm tired. I've got my trusty dog there. He's usually always with me and still is with me. And I'll sit down if I'm tired, or if I actually just want to have a lower perspective, or if I'm trying to get out of the elements. I learned that in Ireland. It's like you pick spots that save you from the elements. This day was the fall, and it was actually really beautiful. So I wasn't concerned about the sun or anything, although should have my painting tilted out of the sun, but that's another thing. This painting, Westward Journey, is the second painting that I wanted to share with you. It is a final painting from the top of that mountain. It's got a nice mountain range behind it. It was Mount Head and the Holy Cross Mountains. And as you can see with a lot of my work, what intrigues me is the foreground and then the nature that's in front of it. So the colors obviously were not this blue, but I took the artistic liberty to change that in the studio. And I suppose when I'm out painting, I'm not worried about getting the mountain exactly. That kind of trips me up a little bit in my process, because I just really more am interested in the feeling that I want to express and the feeling that I want you to view. So on this particular day, here's the horses again, and I hadn't set I went to the car, I set up where I was going to paint, and then went to the car to get my dog out, shooed the horses away, only to realize that they had taken a nice chunk out of my paint. They were actually chewing on my car. And I'm like, it's not an apple, it's a car. I just, city girl self, didn't realize that that would actually happen. So that was a surprise. But I did try to paint. And of course, now I am not present at all because I'm thinking about what this body work is going to cost me and how silly I was, because this was a fairly new vehicle for me, and that doesn't happen very often. So anyhow, you get the gist that I had to now focus on my painting, which wasn't going well. So I decided I painted long enough that I know when to call it quits. I decided this is not working. So I got back in the car, packed up, got back in the car and headed out. Because it was earlier in the day, instead of turning left to go home the way I did, I decided I had time. So I was going to turn right and travel along the scenic Kananaskis Trail, which I can honestly say, I don't think that I have ever done the whole loop before, but I did on this particular day. So it wasn't all lost. My time wasn't all lost. I didn't get any great sketches that day, but I did get had two attempts of, I did see two scenes that in the end produced some pretty nice paintings. And this one, so that's the view. And the next slide is the painting that I called Adventures Along the Cowboy Trail. So Cowboy Trail is another name for the Kananaskis Trail. It's the trail between Longview and the Trans-Canada Highway. So yeah, the day wasn't all lost. I got to see two views that really inspired me to revisit these scenes in my studio where I created those two paintings. So as a result, I was reminded to accept what is, surrender, notice that things are constantly changing, that life is an adventure, and to go with the flow. Oh, and that reminds me, I didn't say I'll just flip back to this painting. The intention of this painting was surrender. So surrender to me can mean many things, but in this case, it was just surrendering to the change of the season, the things that I can't accept, the way that nature just organically has an amazing way of working itself out if you let it, and go with the flow. So as a Canadian artist, it's very important to me to share what I see today, because I feel that there were so many artists that influenced me that I got to see these beautiful places through their eyes in whatever time that was. And so I feel like that's important to do in my work. So now traveling to British Columbia, this is Mount Revelstoke National Park, which in August I had the pleasure of spending some time there and walking around. And it was perfect timing for me because the wildflowers were in full bloom. The reason I wanted to share this painting, well, there's two paintings. So the painting on the left is called Meadows in the Sky. It has the Indian paintbrush, the wildflowers in the front, the Selkirk Mountains in the back. And it is when you approach something, it's just the vistas everywhere. And then as I start to spend more time in an area and study it, I tend to zoom in onto a little bit more detail. So I'm always trying to simplify. And the painting on the right, Foraging a New Path, was the second painting that I did of the Indian paintbrush. And that's pretty common in a lot of my work. You'll see the vista and then you'll see a zoomed in. So I think about zooming out, zooming in version. And I will come back and study the wildflowers, figure out, the names of them, what the meanings of them are. And if butterflies or dragonflies or whatever show up in my work, they probably are there, but I use those, they just come out. If they come out, they come out. And if they don't, then they don't. So the next painting that I wanted to share is this painting I called Cathedral Forest. It was the final painting I painted for the show. I didn't think I would get it done actually in time, but I squeaked it in. The oil paint usually takes I like to give it a long time to dry, but in a rush, I could get it in about 3 weeks. It would be dry enough to varnish. So this painting got done in the nick of time, enough to ship it out to Victoria. And it was inspired by the Giant Cedars Boardwalk, which is just before Revelstoke. It is a magnificent place, just like literally 2 minutes off the Trans-Canada Highway. And of course, like most of the time I've driven that highway so many times and I'm always in my rush to get to the destination, and I blur by some of these amazing places. So this particular time, I took the time to stop. So slowing down, going off the side roads, seeing the beauty that is there is what this whole collection really is about, and making me stop and be present and pay attention. Nothing does that like these giant cedars. They're grounding. They are, my friend that lives on the island would, every time I come visit and go out to like places like Cathedral Grove or any of those areas in the forest, I feel very at home there. So I could just lay in the moss forever, I swear. So I think this will be the first of many forest paintings in my future, but also the way that the light, the contrast and the way that the light filters through the trees was something that stood out to me. And the way that the trees made the arches like this, it reminded me from my art history class of like studying the architecture of all the cathedrals. And it was just like, this is Mother Nature's cathedral to me. So this painting is the final one of my presentation, and it's called Sweet Journey Home. It is from Longview as well, but it reminds me of the cyclical nature of everything, really, and the beauty to travel far away, and then it's always wonderful to come back home. Art has always taught me much more than putting just a brush to canvas. It teaches me patience, perseverance, respecting the beauty of the land, the connection and the experience of the community viewed by so many angles. So viewed by the artist and the observer and everyone that looks. So observer being me too, but everyone else that looks at it. And I hope that this exhibition or collection of paintings encourages you to explore and occasionally take a detour, to breathe deeply, to expand your horizons, and to see far and wide. Thank you so much to Cal and Anahita and Winchester Galleries for hosting this exhibition. And thank you all for taking time out of your day. I know that's precious, so I really appreciate you joining me here. And I think we're going to open this up to question period.
Thanks, Michelle. It was great. I enjoyed it myself a lot. And I believe everybody else enjoyed it too. It was very enlightening and very interesting to know all the behind the scenes of your artwork. We already have a few questions. I would like to ask everybody to type your questions in the group chat. I'm going to read the questions for you, Michelle.
Okay.
And so the first question is from Wendy. She's asking, when Michelle isn't painting outside, where does she paint? Do you have a studio?
Oh, yeah. I'm standing in it. I'm standing in my studio, in a corner of my studio. I actually have this thing on wheels. So just give me 1 second. I can show you my where my easel is. I think if I don't get tripped up on cords, hang on. That is my easel that my dad made me years ago. And that's mostly the space that I paint, and it's clean. I'm only showing you this because it's clean. It usually doesn't look like this. But I actually have had the time to clean up this place a little bit. So also I have had to expand my painting space. And so you can see behind me here that these are paintings that are finished or almost finished, but they're drying, and I will paint here and allow this space for drying. And over here, I have a table that I actually sit at this table to do watercolors if I want them to be flat, and I package here, and I have some storage there. And I also have a studio out back that I teach in, and also do a lot of work varnishing and wires and etc.
Beautiful studio. Thanks for showing us.
Thank goodness for wheels. This is my palette actually that I'm on.
That's wonderful. So next question, what historical Alberta or Western Canadian artists, if any, have influenced your work?
Oh, that's a good question. And that could be an hour answer. So I'll keep it quick, maybe. My art teacher, Betty McDonald, who has now passed, is my major influence in my learning and work and all of that. Historical. I respect any contemporary artist for their uniqueness and what they're trying to share. Also, as far as historical work, there's so many, but David Milne, high up there on my love of the way that he can simplify shapes and use positive and negative shapes to express his work. And lots of female artists, Emily Carr for her rhythm and her perseverance in the arts. I love Anne Savage's style. I love the group of, like any of the group of seven. I mean, like, right. The Lauren Harris for his spiritual, all of them for really, I just thank them all for role modeling what they have done in history or they are currently doing now, because I think that it paved a path for me to believe that I can do this as well. And that was role model. So
sounds great. So the next question is, you obviously travel thousands of miles over many back roads to find spectacular places to paint. Once you arrive at your destination, how long does it take to find a scene you want to paint?
It's pretty quick. I could, in this case, on the top of this land, I could have spun 360 degrees and painted a view anywhere. Wherever I set up, I've got about an hour to capture what I need before the light is changed. In 2 hours, it's done. It's a totally different painting. So, and morning to night, morning, afternoon, early evening. Yeah, I think a two-hour window is probably over the top. An hour is about the maximum to, do like a little panel.
Wonderful. The question just came in. And Danielle says, thank you for your Zoom talk. You have so many paint panels behind you. Can you tell me a little about them? Oh,
yes. These are my plein air painting panels. I started doing them all about the same size. They're on masonite board that I prep 9 by 12. This is a sample of one that I did. Actually, this is below the scene that I shared with you at first.
Mhm.
And I can just give me a second. I got a slide. Those are 4 samples of what I captured in about each of them about an hour time actually being outside. Did I answer the question? What was the question?
Just asking that if you can tell us a little bit about those panels.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I get so distracted. I get so excited. Okay, they're my sketches. It's like my sketchbook, and
Right.
they're kind of precious to me actually. When oftentimes if I'm painting in the studio, the same area, I will go back and revisit those and be like, what was it that was there? So
No, those are actually like the essence of the place.
they're the essence of the place. Yeah, absolutely. And they become, I don't know, they're just like a sketchbook to me. I like to keep them, and then I have when all the other paintings, they go on to their own homes, I'm like, this is like my sketchbook. I'm keeping them, and then I think like one day it'd be really cool to see them all in all the places that I've been. So the early ones I did, FYI for new plein air painters out there, they're gone. They weren't so. It took a long time for me to get ones that I like, but it's that's just the evolution of it, and now I like them. Yeah.
Wonderful.
They were real
Thank
bad.
you. Thanks for explaining that. Another question: do you prefer painting outside in the morning light or late daylight?
4-ish in the evening when that light is coming down is a really beautiful time to paint. When everybody, I shouldn't even say it, but when everybody packs up, that's a good time to be out there. Depending on the day, like sometimes we don't have the opportunity to pick and choose, but yeah, dusk would be my favorite time. I've written that paint when I was driving that road and the light was coming down. It was great.
Right. Beautiful.
It's important to see the light and the shadows. So if it's a flat day, it's much harder to paint outside. So on a bright day like it is in Calgary today, you can see the light and you can see the shadows, and you have a much better chance of getting something successful, whatever that is successful, but it helps you out a little bit. You don't have to figure it out so much.
Right. So Jim's asking, what's your favorite piece in this show? Which one of? I know it's so hard.
It is hard because I like them for different reasons, but I think the one I featured at first, the Seasons of Surrender, yeah, it resonates on a lot of levels for me. So that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Marianne is asking a question, which is also my question too. 2020 was an interesting year for many. How did this past year influence and add to your creative process?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a loaded question. This has been an interesting year for sure. I've had a lot of change in my life this year. You'd think it'd be an artist's dream to have all this time to paint, but it took a lot of time to I guess rebalance myself from all it seemed like hats that I wore or things that I did with the teaching and then get over it, right? Like, so classes shut down, change. It's just all, the change was hard. But hence why I like that first painting, Season of Surrender, because it took me a little while to finally just like surrender to the fact that, okay, this is it. This is where I am right now. And how can I find the beauty in moments, right? How can I find joy? So that's what I started focusing on. And interestingly enough, this exhibition was a lot of that. I thought, well, I can't travel to, here, whatever, but I certainly can get in my car and I can drive 20 minutes, 1 hour, and it's spectacular, right? There's beautiful views that I never really, I was always thinking I have to travel some Italy or some fancy place or whatever, but we have so much beauty around us. So it's been, I think like everyone, we've all felt the challenge, and the change is hard. I miss my students. I miss my community, my students, my community, by, going to museums and art galleries and yoga classes and whatever, all of that. Lunch with, yeah. So
yes, I know we all miss being together in person, having art stops in person.
The creativity, it was hard. It was hard to create paintings in this time for me, because just the energy of everything was a challenge for sure. But I just had to get really disciplined and really focused, and that's where these plein air experiences helped me be present.
I guess I missed one of the questions in between. Sorry, I'm just going to read it now. The painting Gentle Rising in your exhibit, where did the name come from, and what was your inspiration?
Oh, okay. I can share that painting so that you guys know what we're talking about. It's this painting. And there are hollyhocks and little daisies and sunflowers. This painting was inspired by a day trip to the Coots Center, which is, I think, owned by a man named Jim Coots, or his foundation. By his own, it's like part of the University of Lethbridge. But anyway, it's a neat little place close to Lethbridge that had, people can get married and they have some functions and stuff there. But the hollyhocks were so beautiful that day. And again, there was lots of things to paint, but the way that the sky comes through allows me to feel quite free when I paint. So that was well, you're asking me what the intention was. I don't know. I'd have to look that one up. But just the airy feeling, the feeling of freedom that often I hope maybe comes through in my work.
Perfect. That's a beautiful piece. I love it. Okay, so where we are. So Wendy's asking again, is oil painting all you do, or do you use watercolor too, or any other media?
Yeah, I paint in all the paintings in the exhibit are oil, except for 3. There's 3 acrylic paintings in the exhibit. But I paint in, that's a watercolor painting behind me. I paint in, it just depends on how I want to express what I'm painting. But most of the time, oil is my preferred method, but I play in all mediums.
Great. Good to know. The next question, do you ever take minimal supplies and hike into the mountain backcountry for a day of sketching?
Yep, definitely. If I just limit, I will take watercolors in a sketchbook if I'm sketching, if I'm hiking far, because they're compact, they're easy. There's usually water around, or, I use my water bottle to clean. That's the great thing about being outside. You can just scoop up a bit of water in the river or something like that. But that I find I can document with watercolor in a sketchbook as much as I can with oil paint, and it's much more transportable. The further away I go, the lighter the load and the more lunch I have to have.
Interesting. So Bree's asking, how do you choose your medium? When to use oil, when acrylic? I think, how do you choose the medium based on the scene?
How do I choose the medium? I base it on how I want the feeling to be. Also, the mood that I'm in when I'm painting it. But more so, I kind of know what effect I can get from what medium. So I will play around with that. Watercolor has always been a very all painting's meditative for me, but if I feel like I want to sit down and work on something, I can sit down and oil paint or acrylic paint. I don't know why I'm even saying this, but I do tend to sit down and use water medium. So acrylic, watercolor when I sit, and when I paint in oil, it's more of I got to get back and back. I stand up more for that.
Right.
So it's really the feeling that I want to express.
Next question. I hope you're not tired yet because we have so many questions and it's
okay. I hope you guys aren't tired.
You
can tell me, you can.
I just don't want you to be tired. So
no, I won't. If you have to go either. So thanks for being here, everyone. Anybody checking out soon, thank you for coming. And
of course. So I will continue with the questions. Many of your past pieces have a floral focus. This exhibition seems to have branched out into vistas and trees. Has this been a purposeful change?
That's a good question. I painted florals for many years. When I first started painting big paintings, I thought, I've arrived. It was like the symphony went off, and I loved it so much. Georgie O'Keeffe, that's another one that I love. She's a big inspiration for me. And just that stop and pay attention feeling, that was what I was really interested in. And actually I didn't paint landscape for a really long time in my career. And my good friend who paints with me all the time, one day she's like, when did you become a landscape painter? I'm like, I don't know. I think it just finally seeped through me on some level. And it does come back to, it's what's around you and what is inspiring you. And I don't know, maybe it's an age thing. I love to travel. I love to see beautiful places. And if I feel inspired, that's what I'll paint. So it's really interesting to me, though, that I've had 2 exhibitions this year and they're mostly landscape painting, which is even to myself very interesting. But I'm not in control of that. So, I guess I am, but I feel like organically, that's just the way that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Heather's asking, will you be teaching online?
Look at me, Heather. Can you believe it? I'm Zooming. The technology and me it's a double-edged sword. I will never say no. I will never say never, because I would have said I will never be a landscape painter. So, maybe if this goes on for a long time, I might have to adapt. It's all about adapting, right? So COVID for me has been stop resisting, Michelle. Just stop resisting. It's an opportunity to learn something, to do something different. So I've been really trying to listen to that and really stop resisting and surrender. That's the big.
I guess it's been the same for everybody. We just have to open up to new platforms, new things.
And look for the beauty, because it's always there, right? It's just always there, whispering to us. And I can speak my head. My friends know this about me. My head is very busy. It's amazing. I have a good meditation yoga practice. I love that calm space, but when I'm in my heart, I'm there. When I'm in my head, it's not, it's a bit of a crazy mind up there. Yeah, like everyone, I guess.
Jim's asking again, Michelle, is it safe to assume that you will continue with this theme of Backroads and Beyond since there's so many more places to visit?
Yes, I think that it's endless out there for sure. I love to travel. I love to explore. I love adventure. So I think it's safe to assume there'll be more Backroads and Beyond. And the slowing down of everything has really made me pay attention to that too. So that's been a blessing.
So I just want to wrap up the questions with my last question. Where do you see the future of your art, and what are your long-term goals in your career as an artist?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. To keep going, just to keep going and keep focused, keep moving along, keep expanding. It's unlimited, really. Like, I do think that this is a big jump. This last 2 years is a big jump for me, like to be have an exhibition. Like, I don't know if 2 years ago I would have thought that this would be happening. So that's a cool thing. And if I can just keep expanding that, but at the same time staying balanced and staying grounded in who I am and what I want to share, and finding that balance, I think that's really important. Who knows? There might be another book in the future. There.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
More art, more fun. I don't know, more sharing, more like-minded people. It's all good.
There are so many kind comments, and there were so many great questions today.
Guys, thank you for coming.
Yeah,
I wish I could see it. It's so weird. Like this is. I didn't say that about COVID, but I mean, to stand in front of my painting and in front of people, that would feel quite normal to me. And this technology trips me up a little bit. So thanks, Heather, for acknowledging that. Yeah, it's all good though. All learning.
Thank you, everybody. So if there's no more questions, I would like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. Thank you, Michelle. It was a great talk. I believe everybody enjoyed it. It was very informative and enlightening. The exhibition Backroads and Beyond will be on display until Wednesday, March 17th. We're open Tuesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please drop by to the gallery to see the exhibition in person. I don't have to mention that it would be much better to see it in person.
I want to see it in person.
Yes, and we're hoping for a better future where we can have in-person artist talks. But anyway, we'll take it what it is. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to meet me here. That was very kind. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Have a great weekend, everybody. And bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.